Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 30th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see the cold air across the Gulf of Alaska's upper level low, steering this atmospheric river into western Washington, BC. This is going to sag down across Oregon as we go on in through tomorrow as well before it finally kicks out by sometime Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll take a look at those details coming up. We have a very strong frontal system arriving Friday. Good model agreement on it with some even colder air behind that system as we go. We'll check out that system as well in our look at the extended forecast. First of all, taking a look at Medford, Oregon, southwest Oregon coastline here. High surf advisory exists along with sneaker wave warnings as well across the coastline here. This is probably a good thing to remember at any time of the year across the Washington, Oregon coast, all the way up through British Columbia as well. You can see large breaking waves, 20 to 25 feet, possible inundation for some of the beaches and low-lying shorelines. Beach erosion is possible, so heads up if you're on the coastline today and tomorrow. You see Seattle, Tacoma here. Wind advisory, mainly North Puget Sound here. Gust of 40 miles per hour. Nothing too crazy, but there still are trees with leaves on them. It is still early season, so that's probably why they put out the advisory there. You can see the gust 40 miles per hour. Nothing too crazy. This is Spokane. Trick-or-treat forecast calling for maybe some light showers across the area, but chilly. Winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. And you can see this week breezy, showery, and chilly as well, Tuesday through Friday. Lows down in the 20s to mid 30s. Now, if you want to pause the video here and take a look at this, virtual fall training classes, they need spotters and observers for Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon, so sign up here if you are interested. Now, taking a look here, a little wider look at things. You can see that upper level low across the Gulf of Alaska, steering the atmospheric river into Washington, BC, and Oregon. And watch as we go through the next couple of days, slowly taking its time, finally gets down towards Oregon, brings some precipitation and cool off much of the state of Oregon by the time we get towards Tuesday night here. Some residual showers might bring the snow level down to the higher hills, but nothing down to the surface is expected, at least with this first round coming up here. And then as we go on into the extended a little bit more, look at this strong system. This deep low dives into central Canada here and casts a very powerful gradient across portions of western Washington, Oregon, eastern Washington, Oregon as well, British Columbia, Idaho, Montana. Everybody's going to get some wind out of this system as it moves through here with another atmospheric river as we go through later this week into next weekend here. And then some colder air will arrive behind that. You see this high pressure here? This is an Arctic high, an early season Arctic high, dropping down into central BC here. Good model agreement with this as well, casting a pretty powerful gradient and starting to bring some offshore winds across here. So we'll continue to watch this system. I'm skeptical with anything this early in the year, though. This would be really rare to get a snowfall down to the surface here this time of the year through early November, but we'll continue to watch it, and it should be good for the mountain areas as well, for that building that snowpack. Now, taking a look here, this is the European yesterday afternoon's ensemble mean here, the polar lobe directing this atmospheric river currently into the Pacific Northwest. See that cold air shift across the region. Everybody's going to feel the cooler air move in here. I know portions of Oregon have been still pretty warm here the last few days, but that's going to change here over as we go into early to mid this coming week. And then you'll see the next strong polar lobe really cast that gradient across Pacific Northwest ridge out here across Pacific. It's going to have that tight gradient going on here. Good mountain snow, strong winds across the area as we go on in through Saturday into the next weekend. And you can see the trough remains open through the extended, but we're not going to pay too much attention to that yet. We're about 210 hours out at this point. So taking a look here, European on the left, GFS on the right. Now you can see kind of some weak troughing across the area. What I want to show you here mainly, though, is how we go into Friday. You see the weak trough move across the area, some cooler air moving into the region here early and mid this upcoming week, but this isn't the big weather maker here. Look at this next system diving down across the area. Look at some of these gradients. This is the 10 millibar Seattle Portland pressure difference there. That would bring some pretty strong winds across areas Seattle south towards Portland, and you can see this tight gradient move through eastern Washington, Oregon as well, Idaho, Montana. Strong winter storm would be diving across the Rockies if this verifies. GFS is a little bit later with the system, but you can see this very strong pressure gradient across the Washington-Oregon border, really, and this kind of pushes all the way into Idaho, Montana. Again, a strong system. Just differences in timing right now between the two models on when this exactly is going to come in. The European is a little bit quicker at this point. We'll continue to watch that. We have a few days to break that system down as it comes. Now, taking a look here, you can see this nice pressure grade or temperature gradient, which does equal a pressure gradient, but this dives down across the region. You can see the cold air overspread the region by Tuesday evening here, all the way through Oregon, Idaho, into western Montana. And then we bring that next system here through Friday. You can see the warmer air start to move in aloft. Again, if I didn't say so, this is 10,000 feet, 700 millibars. But look at this next polar lobe coming down across the region. Very cold air, early season Arctic air mass trying to set up here across central southern British Columbia here. Very impressive temperatures, 10,000 feet all the way into western Canada here. So we're going to have to watch this system closely. We could get some good winds across the area. Good snows are almost a certainty, and we could bring lower snow levels even across the region as we go on in through the weekend into early the following week here. But again, don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. It is an early season Arctic air mass, and it's going to have some trouble getting into the lower lands of southwest BC and Washington. But we'll continue to watch it at this point. This is yesterday afternoon's European 10-meter max wind gust. This is trying to accumulates the max wind gust any one area can expect. Now this trended upwards in the 060. It put a 43 mile per hour gust over the central Puget Sound here. But now watch as we go into later next week here. Here goes the Friday system. Look at these winds this system blasts across the region. Look at this westerly flow down the Strait of Juan de Fuca as this deep low moves across into Alberta on the east slopes of the Rocky Mountains out there. It's going to create that big pressure gradient, bring some 50 plus mile per hour gusts through eastern Washington, where areas are still dry out there. It could bring some blowing dust across the region. In Seattle, look at that, 45 miles per hour out of this would be some pretty good pressure gradient between Portland and Seattle. Again, we have to watch this system as it comes. It's probably going to shift around a bit, and the timing will change a hair. This is the GFS, a little bit wider look on the 10-meter max wind gust here. Not as windy overnight tonight through tomorrow morning for the Seattle area, but some pretty good winds moving through eastern Washington as we go through tonight. Now, we're going to speed ahead towards next Friday's system as you'll be able to see it come across the region here. You can see some pretty good gusts. Look at this, 49 miles per hour for SeaTac. Look at this, over 50 miles per hour portions of eastern Washington, Oregon. Look at this on the east slopes of the Rockies here. Some huge hurricane force gusts are possible as this very deep low dives across the region here. So strong storm system coming here on Friday. I wanted to show this now. This is 24-hour precipitation total. So I want to show the timing of when this precipitation should arrive to whatever area you are in here in the Pacific Northwest. You can see some pretty good totals coming, almost an inch here for Seattle, but look at the mountainous areas getting over 3 inches for some area. As the river starts to slide south through Oregon here, you can see all the way down the Oregon coast here towards California, bringing some good precipitation amounts. California is going to love this. Is Sierra Nevada getting some good precip amounts all the way down past the Bay Area even. Some precipitation is better than none. You see this swing through Oregon. Even places, eastern Oregon, are going to get a little bit of precip out of this. And as you move towards the higher terrain here for northeast Oregon, Idaho Panhandle, Rocky Mountains, some good precipitation coming. Then you can see how the precip kind of trails off here as we go through midweek. Then Friday's system comes roaring down the BC coast Thursday night. Coming through the Seattle area, look at some of the precip totals here as we go through Friday night for Seattle. What is that? Over an inch at this point. Another good dosing of rain for the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, the Oregon coast as well. Slides through the area. Then multiple systems will probably be rounding this Arctic high that's trying to set up here over British Columbia here. So interesting weather coming up next week, folks. It's going to get colder across some of the area here, but we have to watch that system because the cold air getting into western Washington, Oregon is by no means a guarantee this early in the season, and actually any time of year. But places like off to the east are going to get a little bit better chance for some snowfall. On the higher terrain, it's pretty much a slam dunk, a sure bet by that point. So now looking at Mount Baker ski area, you can see model's been trending a little bit colder, especially through the extended here with that air mass coming down later through next week. You can see it here. This is actually looking out towards the Wednesday night here through Thursday. Some pretty chilly air moving down across the region. But then you can see through next weekend and early through next week that cold air tries to settle down over the Pacific Northwest here, kind of trending colder, as I said, on the Mount Baker run-to-run look. You can see this goes all the way back to October 25th, the morning here. They can go through each individual European run here, and you can kind of see the trend again for a little bit chillier temperatures coming for Stevens Pass here coming up. Now look at Mount Hood. You can see that trend for a little bit colder through the extended also. Just wanted to point that out there. So Whidbey Island today, you can see that wind advisory is up for those areas up there. You can see some gusts into the lower 40s. And then the potential for those stronger winds as we look at that frontal system driving down Thursday night into Friday here. Some gusts over 50 showing up here for portions of Whidbey Island. This is Seattle. You can see the European here, the mean is up towards 40 miles per hour. We might get our first gale here through the central Puget Sound here for the year. Then look, even the potential for some stronger winds as we look off into Friday morning of this upcoming week. Spokane, look at this. The mean is already up towards the upper 40s, towards 50. Once this consolidates, we could easily get some gusts into the lower 50s across portions of western or eastern Washington. And you can see the first blustery conditions rolling through here on the day Halloween for Spokane. This is Great Falls. Like some big winds look to come with that strong low pressure diving down as we go on through later next week as well. This is another nice tool I like to use here. This is significant wave height and direction. So you can kind of see if you're going out to the Washington, Oregon coast when the big waves are coming. You can kind of see some wave activity coming Monday morning across some of the Washington, Northwest Oregon coast here. And the waves kind of die down here. But then as we go on into the let's see, if we go on into later on into next week, you'll see Friday's system come roaring down the coastline there as we go on into Saturday morning here. Some pretty good wave action up here towards Vancouver Island and Haida Gwaii as that moves down the coastline. But just kind of an interesting look at the wave heights as they ebb and flow along our coastlines here. So a great tool if you like to go out to the Washington, Oregon coast or BC, Northern California, wherever you may be. Now this is the European, does the same thing here too, kind of a maximum individual wave height. You can see that bump there on Monday morning, and then we relax as we go towards midweek and then increase again as we go towards that system sliding down the BC coast on in through Saturday morning. Now looking at total snow here, I just like to let this play out and kind of show you guys what the models are showing, but you can see some snow all the way down through the Sierra Nevadas of California, Oregon Cascades. Maybe this will build up a little bit in these slopes of the Cascades as well of Oregon here. Yeah, look at the Rocky Mountains, man. Really getting some good snowfall here as we go on in through this week. And then Friday's system's going to dive down here in the wake of that. Some really cold air is going to move across the region. So yeah, we go out 10 days here. You can see some 4+ foot totals out here across some of the higher terrain of British Columbia. Washington Cascades getting good amounts here. Even the coastal range of Oregon might get a little bit of snowfall. Limbic Mountains, Vancouver Island, the higher terrain will build up that snowpack as well. So I want to take a quick look at the atmospheric river forecast here coming up. You can see this is Astoria, Oregon, northwest tip of Oregon there. Category 2 rolling down through tonight into tomorrow morning, and Friday's and Saturday morning system just briefly hits Category 4 status there. But again, this is beneficial this time of year. We're not dealing with saturated ground, high running rivers, and not a huge snowpack in place that we're going to start eroding. So this is beneficial right now. We're still dealing with drought here across Pacific Northwest. As long as this rainfall doesn't fall too hot and heavy over a burn scar area, we should be doing just fine. You can also take a look a little bit further inland and see what the category of atmospheric ratings are for places like the Washington foothills, Oregon foothills up through BC as well. And you can see this almost hits Category 3, I believe, or is that Category 2? Almost hits Category 3 there. This is for the South Washington Cascades as well. But again, nothing to worry about, beneficial at this time of year. This is looking at the Doppler radar, the Camino Island, and the Langley radar right now. If you look closely here, you'll see this rain shadow going on across the central Puget Sound here right now. And once this starts sliding a little bit further south this evening, it's going to allow some of the southwesterly flow to start getting into the Puget Sound and bring some moderate precip. But it may remain mostly dry here for the Seahawks game as we go through this afternoon, for those of you who are concerned. As we go through this evening, though, and into tomorrow morning, it's going to slide south across Oregon. It looks like Portland and Willamette Valley may be dealing with some steady rainfall as the trick-or-treaters are out there tomorrow. But I just wanted to show you guys this. We do have the excessive rainfall outlook as well across the west slopes, the Cascades, coastal range here, and rainfall warnings for places up into BC as well. So anyway, we'll watch this systems, especially that Friday one, pretty intriguing, especially with the cold air behind it as we go through the extended forecast. We'll watch that day by day. We'll try to pinpoint some of these wind speeds. It looks like we could get pretty windy across Seattle and maybe Spokane, eastern Washington, especially the higher terrain. Then we're really going to build up the snowpack. Good model agreement with that cold air arriving into south central BC here as we go in through next weekend. So we may turn noticeably cooler as we go through the extended. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. We'll do this again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.